Okay, guys, so we're learning module 25.3. So go ahead and write this. This is your topic, coordinate proof using distance with segments and triangles. So we're going to take more than one day to learn this lesson. For those of you who are in Avid, please go ahead and write down the essential question. That would be, how do you write a coordinate proof? Right? Okay. Okay, so then let's move on to the next screen. There you go. And so today in our lesson, we're only going to be focusing on one thing, and that would be deriving the distance formula. Okay, I'm not even going to tell you that we're going to do the midpoint formula today, but today we're just going to focus on deriving the distance formula. Does anybody know what that means, deriving the distance formula? This is where you answer. Okay, so what that means is you're going to figure out what the distance formula is from something else, okay? So in order for us to do this, I'm going to go ahead and use something else, which is, where is it? This one right here, okay? So let me go ahead and erase all of this first. I know that you don't have graph paper, but it really helps if you make sure that you plot the points accurately. So I'm going to pick a point here, and then I'm going to pick a point here, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a line connecting those 2 points. And then I'm going to tell you the coordinates so you know exactly where to put the points, right? This is at 2, comma. And then if you look over here, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2, 4. And then this point here is at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's negative 4, comma. And then you have to go down by 1. So that's negative 1, right? So I have a segment. And usually you will see questions like this where they say, please find the length of segment AB, right? And this would be A. And this would be B. And so I already taught you how to do this. Let's try and remember how Miss Choi taught you this, right? What I said to you was you have to create a right triangle. So now I told you to bring this down like this, right? That was the wrong color. But I told you to bring it down like this. And then I told you to bring this one to the side. And so now we have created a right triangle, right? So then now from here, I told you to figure out how long this is and how long that is. And so what you did was you counted the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you knew that this was 5 units long. And then you counted the squares sideways. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you knew that this was 6 units long. Okay? Thumbs up if you remember this lesson. Okay, good. So then, now what we had to do was use the Pythagorean theorem. I just wanted to go ahead and let everybody know that right now I'm recording in my 6th period classroom. And I just wanted to say as a teacher, I feel very proud of them right now at the way that they are behaving. So, a lot of you know the Pythagorean theorem as a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? But sometimes people get confused. So I like to express it as leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. But I just put hypo squared. What that means is in a right triangle, because a lot of people don't know what A and B is, right? So look, the A is one of the legs, and then the B is the other leg. And then the hypotenuse is the slanted side in a right triangle. Okay, so instead of using letters, I'm actually describing the parts of the triangle. And using the Pythagorean theorem, you know that in order for you to find the measure of the hypotenuse, you have to go 6 squared plus 5 squared equals hypo squared, right? And that's the segment AB, right? We're going to calculate this, and this is going to be 36 plus 25. And that is hypo squared. Can somebody tell me what 36 plus 25 is? Yes, that's 61, right? So my hypotenuse squared is 61. But guys, do I want to find the length of hypotenuse squared, or do I want to find the length of the hypotenuse?
Hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse, right? So how do you undo the square? Yes, that's very good. You showed me how to do it. So that's the square root. The official word for it is square root, okay? So I'm going to find the square root of both sides. And so then what I get is the hypotenuse, the length of the hypotenuse is square root of 61. Now this was the easy way to figure out how long the side is, right? But most of the time in your test, right, they don't actually draw this out for you. Sometimes they would just say that point B is here and point A is there, and then they would ask you, what is the distance of segment AB, right? And so then that is when we get confused. A lot of you in this class, because you're very smart, you already know what the distance formula is, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and erase everything here. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just go ahead and wait for you a little bit. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so going back to this right here, we figure out that the length of the hypotenuse is square root of 61, right? Shh. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out what the formula is if we cannot draw the triangle. Quite honestly, you can draw the triangle at any time, right? But we're just going to pretend that, we're too good to actually draw stuff out, right? And we have to go to the formula right away. Just so you know, let me give you the distance formula so you know what we're trying to get to in the end, right? So this is what we're trying to get to. D is equal to the square root of, right? And then we have x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Okay? And really, if we have a lot of time, we will practice saying this correctly because a lot of you don't know how to read equations, but we don't have time right now, okay? So just pay attention to how I'm reading it. D equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared, okay? And so this is the formula that we eventually want to get to, right? So I'm going to go ahead and erase the formula now. Are we good? Okay, because now I gotta explain how to get there. Okay? If you did not understand the formula, that's okay because I'm gonna explain it to you now. Yeah, that's the whole point. When you cannot draw the picture or the diagram, that's when you're supposed to use the formula. Okay? All right, so there you go. But it's just difficult to memorize it, so you got to first understand it. So let's think about this. When Miss Choi told you to draw the triangle, and then I told you to count how many, you got 5 over here and 6 over here. So let's take a look at 6 over here. I'm going to tell you right now that you got to use these numbers, 2 and -4. And using those two numbers, you got to get 6. What do you think you had to do?
Multiply.
2 times -4 is not 6. What else? What did you have to do to the 2 and the -4 to get 6? No. Come on, guys, that's really good. Keep giving me the wrong answer until you get to the right one. Okay, so if you add is 2 plus -4, and that's supposed to get me -2, but this is +6. You're so close. You did it wrong again. That's very good. Give me more wrong answers. Let's get there eventually. Come on. Good job. Slope? Yeah, slope is really important, but that's wrong too, okay? No, guys, that's really good. Oh my goodness, good job. Division is wrong, but subtraction is right, okay? No, good job. We love it when you get it wrong because you're supposed to get it wrong to get it right. So guys, listen. Shh. What you did was, you did 2 minus -4, and that's how you got +6. So now let's give this letters. This is x sub 1, and this is, let's change the order, okay? I want to go ahead and change it to x sub 2 and y sub 2. I'm calling it sub 2's because I'm calling this group of numbers group 2. No, and then this is x sub 1 here, and this is y sub 1. Because these are coordinates for x and y, but this is in group 2 and this is in group 1. Okay? So, it does not matter. And so we just talked about this. How did we get 6? We did x sub 2 minus x sub 1, didn't we? 2 minus negative 4 was positive 6. So I'm going to write that down, okay? X sub 2 minus x sub 1. And that's how I got this one. X sub 2 minus x sub 1. I'm going to erase the one at the bottom because I wasn't supposed to write it here. 6, I got 6 by going x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now let's take a look at 5. I'm looking at 5 over here, which I had to use the number 4 and the number negative 1 to get 5. What do you think I did with the 4 and the negative 1 to get 5? Throw out the answers, guys. If you add them, it's 4 plus negative 1, which is negative 3, but I have 5. So what is the other option, guys? Yes, you had to do the same thing. Good job. You had to subtract, right? So 4 minus negative 1 is positive 5. So how did I get that? That would be y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Thumbs up if you get me so far. Ooh, okay. So I know it feels really complicated, but it's not that bad. We're using numbers, and then we're putting in letters afterwards, okay? So then, remember the leg squared plus leg squared equals hypo squared? So what did I do? I did 5 squared plus 6 squared equals hypo squared. Remember that? Yes. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is, instead of using numbers, I'm going to use this, the letters, okay? So the leg squared, 6 squared is the same as what? X sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared, right? Because that's 6 squared. Plus, I have to square the 5, right? So this is what? Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And I'm going to square that. Wow. See, it looks really scary, but all I did was 6 squared plus 5 squared, right? And then that was equal to what? That was equal to hypo squared. But we talked about how we don't want to find out what hypo squared is equal to. We want to figure out how long the hypotenuse is. So what did we have to do over here, guys? Yes, we had to find the square root of both sides. Yes, we had to find the square root of both sides. Oh my goodness. Now, all of a sudden, do you see how the equation popped up? Yeah. There you go. So if you look carefully, this is the same as the equation I gave you in the beginning. Okay? So then, the hypotenuse, or D, for distance between the two segments, right, is equal to what? Exactly what you see over there. The big square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. And so that is how you get the distance formula. So whenever you have graphing paper and you can just actually plot it and count the squares and figure out how long this is, go ahead and use that. But if you cannot, go ahead and memorize the formula, and you know that x sub 2 is the first number in group 2, and then you know x sub 1 is the first number in group 1. And you just have to randomly say this is group 1, group 2. It doesn't matter if you decide to put this as group 1 or this as group 1, right? Okay, and so that's it. And so based on this, of course, we have to solve a question, right? No. Yeah. Okay, so now that we know what the distance formula is and how it's derived, I went into the evaluate section, question number 8, because it has a really, really good example, right? And it makes you go ahead and find, use the distance formula to find the length of all these segments, okay? So as you can see over here, just like I told you, what do you notice here? They have given you all the points, okay? But they didn't draw it for you. So unless you have graph paper and you can just draw everything yourself, it's going to be very difficult to use the Pythagorean theorem, right? So what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and use the distance formula, okay? So let's go ahead and write down the distance formula first, because that really helps out, right? Alright, so this is what we're going to use. And it says by the distance formula, we have to find the length of segment JK. Alright? So then we have to find points J and K. I can't really see from over there. So here you go. Here's J and K. I'm going to write it bigger for you in case you cannot see it just like me. So J is at -2, 2, and K is at 0, 1. Alright? And what we're going to do next is we're going to group them. Okay? So we know which one is in the group sub 1 and which one is group sub 2, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and, I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this. And then I'm going to say that this is going to be my group number 1. And again, the order does not really matter at all. And I'm going to say this one right here, point K. I'm going to say that is my group number 2. Okay? So then now, we know that this is going to be X sub 2 and Y sub 2, because this is all part of group 2. This is all part of group 1, so it's X sub 1 and Y sub 1. And now all we have to do is plug it in, right? So it's actually quite easy. So D is equal to the square root of, right? X sub 2 is 0 minus X sub 1 is -2. So there's 2 negatives, right? And then you have to copy the squared plus, open parentheses, Y sub 2 is 1 minus Y sub 1 is 2. And then I have to square it. So from here, it's very easy. Once you understand the formula, applying it is not really a big deal. So 0, 2 negatives make a positive, so that's 2 squared, which gives you 4. 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 times -1 is +1. So what is the distance of segment JK? That would be square root of 5. And what I want you to do is, I want you to continue to find the segment lengths for all of them until the end of the period. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have the answer to this question, because we don't. But this is just the work, and that's all I want you to do for today. Okay? So, happy learning.